Chapter 4. It's true. So most of my life has been dysfunctional. Most of my life has been weird and strange. And well, yeah, most of my life has been weird and strange, and most of my life has been dysfunctional. Not all weird and strange is bad, and not all dysfunctional is, utterly traumatic. So today I thought I would tell the story of how I met my first husband. I've been married 3 times, 2 of which were legal. I married my first husband, and that was a legal marriage. I married my wife, but in this state it wasn't legally recognized. And then, I married my current husband, who is the love of my life, and makes me very happy. But this is going to be about my first husband, because it's an odd story, it's a weird story, and it's one that probably could only happen to me. It's something that only I would do. So I married a gay man. We'll call him D, because I've basically decided that I'm just going to call everyone by the first letter of their first name, unless I already have a unique nickname for them. But anyway, so the way we met was actually kind of traumatic. We met in a psych ward. He was there because he had tried to commit suicide, and I was there because I had tried to commit suicide. I was 18 years old. It was shortly before I turned 19. And we were in a psych ward together. It was a co-ed psych ward. It was one of those dual diagnosis wards where you basically go and you spend a couple of days, and then they kick you out and, hope you don't try to commit suicide again, but we really haven't solved anything or, given you any tools to fix your life. So anyway, we were there, and back then you could smoke there. So you had to go up to the counter and you had to get your cigarette. Like they would give you, I think, 2 per smoking session. And then you go outside, and a nurse or someone else who works on the ward would light your cigarette for you, and you smoke. And pretty much everybody would go out there and hotbox 2 cigarettes, and then So we were out there, and I walked up to him, and I was like, "Are you gay?" And he was like, "Yeah, actually I am. Is that a problem?" And I was like, "No, actually I'm currently identifying as a lesbian." So we started talking, and we became really good friends. But that really good friendship happened very, very fast and lasted 2 days. By about the 3rd day, we were sneaking off into I think they call it the gallery or whatever, the little kitchen area where you keep like extra cokes or snacks or whatever. We would sneak off in there to make out. So, my dad shows up one day to visit and to do the whole, you had to have this meeting with the person that you were going home with to make sure that you were going home to a safe place. And my dad and I had been through this before because I had been hospitalized many times for suicide attempts. But he shows up, and I decided to take this opportunity to come out of the closet. And so I was like, "Hey, Dad, by the way, I'm kind of bisexual. I'm really more into girls than guys, and so I just thought you should know this because I'm going to start living my life accordingly. I'm going to start, actually dating women, and I don't want you to, or publicly dating women. I dated women before, and I don't want you to do that." And he was like, "Fuck you. I have a daughter. I'm leaving. You can't come home with me." So he leaves. So I ended up having to stay there an extra week, which gave me more time, to get to know B, and we were still making out in the gallery. But anyway, so the day comes that I leave, and he's still in there. I don't know why he was still in there, but anyway, he was still in there. So, my dogs, by the way, all that noise in the background, that's the dogs. They're in my room fighting in my bedroom. But anyway, so, dogs aside, I'm not really sure, why we started making out or dating. I mean, he was gay. He wasn't bisexual. He didn't like women. He had never liked women. He had never been with a woman. Women turned him off. For some reason, there was something about me, and I think it was the fact that we had this very sick, codependent relationship from the very beginning. So I get out, and I'm calling up there to talk to him, and the day that he gets out, he drives all the way out to my dad's house to pick me up. And we went to his house, and we had sex. And he said he wanted to have a baby, and I said that I didn't want to have a baby out of wedlock, and he said, well, then let's just get married. And so we were like, yay, we're going to get married. So then I go back to my dad's house. He takes me back home because he had, a roommate and whatnot, and he couldn't just get someone in. So he takes me back home, and my brother and my father get into an altercation, and the police are called. And then when the police show up, they inform me that I can't live there. What had led me to try to commit suicide in the first place was the fact that I was homeless. Again, I was homeless because I pressed charges against my father. He punched me. I was working at, I think it was H. Shields at the time, and I ended up being fired from my job because of the bruising, which I now know is illegal. You can't fire someone because they were beat up. But my face was all swollen and whatnot. So the police officer informed me that I can't live there because I have a pending charge against my father. And so I called D, and I'm like, hey, come, I need your help. I'm homeless again. I don't really know what to do. And so he comes and picks me up and moves in with him. While I'm living there, I get a job. I become one of the assistant managers at a clothing store that his friend was the store manager of. We get married. All of his friends are shocked. None of them really like me. They're like, oh my God, you have a vagina, and he's a man, and he's a gay man, and this does not work. This does not happen. You're an affront to the way we live. Okay. And our relationship is very dysfunctional. I started using recreational drugs. I didn't use them often, but I did use them a few times if we would go out to clubs, and it just seemed like the thing to do. I wanted a girlfriend. Everyone at this club seemed to be using drugs, although looking back, I now realize that it wasn't that every lesbian in these clubs was doing drugs. It was more that the lesbians that I was hanging out with, because they were friends with my husband, were doing drugs. So yeah, weird. But, and we started doing a lot of cocaine. And I am really not a fan of really big hardcore drugs. Like, I'm not a fan of drugs at all anymore. Like, that's why I'm getting a degree in psychology with an emphasis on addiction, is because I want to help people get off of drugs. Drugs ruined my brother's life, and by default ruined the lives of his children, and affected the lives of my father and me and everyone who loves him. And so I really don't like drugs. Like, I hate drugs. Drugs wreck my family. And here he was, like, a cocaine addict, and I was like, oh, I don't know that I can do this. And then he started spending all the money on drugs and whatnot. And it was the most dysfunctional relationship. I don't know why we ever got married. We didn't have sex very often. We had sex a few times. Shortly after getting married, a doctor told me again that I couldn't have children anyway. So, I don't know. I think that it was more, we were lonely. We wanted someone to be there. And at that point, we would take anyone. It didn't have to be sexual. It just could be just someone to be there. Someone to say, I love you, or something. Someone to take partial responsibility for life, just to help us out. So that's what that was, I think. And it went downhill. I needed more from him than he could give me, because he was gay, so there were things he couldn't give me. Sexually, romantically, emotionally. He could have given them to me had a penis, he wasn't a horrible person, but I was a woman. He was a gay man. It didn't click, so I started to lose it. I started to have all of these issues with abandonment again, and thinking that I was worthless. And I tried to commit suicide a couple of times. I ended up dating a lot, like an insane amount. I was having so much sex with men, women, whatever. I didn't care. Just something to fill that void. Not a happy time in my life, but it was a time in my life. And I ended up dating this guy. We call him Jay, first letter of his first name. And he was so rock and roll. I mean, it's just, and through him, I met a lot of interesting people that I either still know today or miss in some form of fashion. And I still know him. He's become a very weird individual who's kind of sort of tried to kidnap me once, but that's another story for another day. Through him, we met someone named W. And I hooked W, who was a gay man, up with my husband. And little did I know that this was going to cause a train wreck. They ended up dating. He ended up cheating on his boyfriend with me, which was weird because technically I was still his wife. And I'm not even really sure how it ended because we weren't really together anymore. We weren't emotionally there for one another. We kind of didn't even like one another. So one day he just comes home from work and he says, "You know what? Let's get a divorce. Do you want a divorce? You want us to get divorced and be done with this?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, let's get a divorce." So after that, we were kind of friends again. Like, okay, well, this is finally over. This weird experiment, and we don't know why we did it. It's over. So move on. We threw this party. C and another J showed up. I ended up having sex with the other J. Wanted to be with C. Ended up being with him later. And apparently he showed up to the party. I found out later that that person showed up to that. Actually, I do have a nickname for him, so we will amend C and call him Genius Boy. Found out later that he actually showed up to that party to hook up with me because he had, had feelings for me since high school. But I don't know. The other day was an ex-boyfriend, and one thing led to another, and so then we got divorced. We started the paperwork. It was very civil. We got all the debt. I was supposed to get all this stuff because he was in a better situation than I was financially, and he didn't want to leave me destitute. But because I didn't have any place to take it, he ended up selling it all anyway. So that happened. And then we kind of just went our separate ways. I still think about him sometimes, like when I went to prison and I was on the news. Did he see the news? What did he think when he saw, if he saw me on the news? Because I was on the news. Did he think, well, that's my ex-wife? Did he think, she was psychotic? I knew it. What did he think? What became of him? I would like to know what became of him, but I don't have the guts to reach out. I'm pretty sure I could find him on Facebook if I tried, but I don't have the guts to reach out. Just leave him be. I hope that he has a good life. I hope that he's clean and sober. I hope that he found someone to love him. I know that he always wanted kids, so I hope he has kids. And so the last thing just cut off suddenly. I think it was because I was trying to get my dogs to stop, torturing one another. But anyway, basically that is the story of how I, met and married a gay man and how we ended up getting divorced. And there are lots of sub stories in there, like the fact that I basically stalked our next door neighbor, broke up a lesbian relationship, ended up saying horrible, horrible things to, my husband's boyfriend, which is a strange thing utter my husband's boyfriend. Um, you know, it's very unusual, but it was very enlightening. I learned more about myself and my sexuality. I learned more about what I could and couldn't take in terms of a relationship. I learned about true friendship versus fake friendship, because a lot of his friends weren't really his friends. Like, they had known each other for years, but the only thing they ever got around each other to do was drugs. Like, they hung out to do drugs together. That was the extent of it. Like, let's go to the club and get high and do drugs. Or to drink together. A lot of partying, not a lot of just time together, talking, hanging out. It was always alcohol fueled. It was always drug fueled. It was always something. But so yeah, that's the story of me and my first husband. And so weird to think back then. My current husband, asked me questions about it. He was like, "So, why did you marry him again?" I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think I married him because I was lonely, but I may have married him because I thought that I loved him, or I don't know. I don't know. Very short lived. We weren't even married a year. So yeah, that, and so I guess I will see no one, because no one watches this, back here tomorrow, where I will talk about something else from my weird, complicated life. Let's really make a movie out of it. Let's really make a movie version of my life. I don't know who it's playing. What do you want to play? Crazy.